Imagine being judged the moment you walk in, ignored, dismissed, underestimated, just because of how you look. But what happens when the truth comes out? Today's story will leave you speechless. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss stories that inspire, empower, and reveal the real strength of Black lives. The morning sun reflected off the polished glass doors of Lux Royale Hotel, the city's most exclusive five-star destination. Guests in designer clothes hurried past, their heels clicking sharply on marble floors, and valet attendants lined up sleek cars like metallic ornaments. Through the bustling entrance walked Evelyn Harper, a Black woman in her late 60s. Her hair was streaked with silver, braided neatly into a bun, and her attire was modest: a simple blouse, plain slacks, and well-worn shoes. In her hands, she carried a small, faded leather bag that had clearly seen decades of travel. The moment she approached the front gate, the hotel's security guard frowned, scrutinizing her every move. "Excuse me, ma'am, are you a guest here?" the young man asked, his tone polite but skeptical. Evelyn smiled gently, unbothered by his doubt. "Yes, I have a reservation. Could you please check?" The guard exchanged a quick glance with his colleague, an unspoken judgment hanging in the air. "Ma'am, this is a very exclusive hotel. Are you sure you're at the right place?" Evelyn nodded calmly. "Please, just check. That's all I'm asking." The guard hesitated, then reluctantly stepped aside, muttering under his breath. As she entered the grand lobby, every eye turned toward her. Some were curious, others dismissive. Whispers floated through the air like invisible threads. Is she lost? Can she even afford a night here? She doesn't belong in a place like this. Evelyn ignored them, her posture poised and dignified. She approached the reception desk, where a young receptionist named Vanessa sized her up with a faint smirk. "I'm afraid I don't see a reservation under your name," Vanessa said coolly, her tone polite yet dismissive. "This is a very high-end hotel. Maybe you're at the wrong place." Evelyn's eyes softened, but her voice remained firm. "Please check again. I've traveled a long way for this. I'm certain my booking is here." Vanessa sighed and glanced at her colleagues, sharing a small, amused look. "Fine. Please wait in the lounge. It may take a while." Evelyn nodded, then walked slowly toward the waiting area, placing her small bag on the chair beside her. The murmurs intensified. A group of young men whispered behind their hands. "Looks like she's trying to sneak into the hotel. She doesn't even look like someone who can pay for a suite." Evelyn sat quietly, hands folded neatly on her lap, her face a mask of serenity. But beneath the calm exterior, a storm brewed. She knew the eyes on her weren't merely curious, they were judgmental. She could feel the heavy weight of assumptions, prejudice, and ignorance pressing down on her like the humid summer air outside. Minutes turned into what felt like hours. She glanced toward the reception desk, where Vanessa tapped impatiently on her keyboard, finally picking up the phone. Evelyn took a deep breath, steadying herself. She would not raise her voice. She would not beg. She had waited patiently her entire life for moments like this. Somewhere deep inside, she smiled slightly. The truth could not be hidden forever. Evelyn Harper sat in the lobby, poised yet invisible in the sea of luxury. The soft hum of conversation, the clinking of fine china from the cafe, and the subtle perfume of expensive colognes swirled around her like a taunting storm. Every eye in the room seemed to weigh her presence, silently judging, whispering, doubting. A group of young women at a corner table giggled behind their hands. "She doesn't even belong here," one whispered. "Probably can't even afford a coffee." A man in a tailored suit shook his head, smirking. "Some people just don't know their place." Evelyn did not flinch. She remained still, her hands folded neatly in her lap, her eyes scanning the marble floors as if tracing every imperfection. She had lived decades learning to endure the weight of other people's assumptions. But even she felt the sting now, the subtle, quiet cruelty of a world that measured worth by appearances. Her mind drifted for a moment. She remembered her younger days, working tirelessly in offices where she was underestimated, laughed at, ignored. Every glass ceiling she had shattered, every door she had forced open through grit and intelligence. It all led her to this point. She had built her life on patience, dignity, and unyielding perseverance. And now, here she was, a black woman in a world that refused to see her value at first glance. Time crawled. Vanessa, the receptionist, continued to type indifferently, occasionally glancing at her with faint disdain. Evelyn's presence seemed to irritate everyone around her. Guests whispered, staff judged, and the security guard lingered nearby, pretending to be busy but stealing glances that spoke volumes. Why is she here? Who does she think she is? Evelyn's heart remained calm, though. She closed her eyes briefly, inhaling the cool, air-conditioned air. Patience had always been her weapon. She knew that eventually the truth always emerged, and assumptions always crumbled. A small boy tugged at his mother's hand, pointing. "Mom, why is that lady sitting there all alone? She doesn't look like someone from this hotel." The mother whispered something under her breath and pulled him along, shaking her head. Evelyn's lips curved slightly, a tiny smile that went unnoticed, as if she was silently acknowledging the ignorance around her. It was then that a young bellboy named Marcus approached. He was different. There was a quiet respect in his eyes, a subtle recognition of dignity where others only saw status. "Ma'am," he said softly, "can I help you with anything? Maybe I can check your booking?" Evelyn nodded, grateful for the small gesture. "Thank you, son. That would be kind of you." Marcus disappeared into the back office. For the first time in an hour, Evelyn felt a slight relief. Someone saw her. Not just her clothes or her age, but her humanity. Meanwhile, Vanessa muttered to a coworker, "I don't know why she insists. Probably some scam. I can't believe someone like her would have a reservation here." The words hung in the air, heavy and cutting, but Evelyn ignored them. Every whisper, every sneer, every glance of doubt only strengthened her resolve. She had endured prejudice all her life, and she knew that power often comes quietly, wrapped in patience and composure. Minutes stretched endlessly. Evelyn's thoughts drifted again. Her family, the companies she had built, the foundations she had quietly funded. All of it, invisible to the public eye, yet real. And she knew that soon, very soon, her presence here would make sense to everyone. Marcus returned with a folder in his hands. "Ma'am, I think I've found something," he said cautiously. Evelyn's eyes lifted, calm and unwavering, meeting his gaze. She nodded ever so slightly, as if to say, "It's all right, young man. The world will learn the truth in its own time." The lobby seemed heavier now, as if sensing a shift, though no one else knew it yet. Evelyn's patience was about to pay off, but not without leaving everyone else questioning their assumptions. For over an hour, the whispers continued, and for over an hour, Evelyn Harper remained seated, calm, unshaken, her dignity intact. A quiet storm waiting for the moment the world would finally see her for who she really was. Time seemed to stretch in the Lux Royale hotel lobby. Evelyn Harper remained seated, calm and dignified, while the whispers and judgments around her swirled like a storm. Every so often, Vanessa, the receptionist, glanced over with thinly veiled irritation, clearly frustrated that this ordinary-looking woman refused to disappear. Meanwhile, Marcus, the young bellboy, moved quietly behind the scenes. He had taken Evelyn's documents back to the manager's office, unsure of what to make of the situation. He had never seen someone ignored so blatantly, yet remain so composed. Something about Evelyn's presence commanded respect, even if the rest of the world refused to recognize it. Finally, the manager, Mr. Donovan, a man in his mid-40s with a sharp suit and sharper arrogance, stepped into the lobby. His eyes flicked toward Evelyn, and a dismissive smile crossed his face. "Ma'am," he began, in a tone meant to assert authority, "we've looked through our records. There's no reservation under your name. Perhaps you've made a mistake." Evelyn's eyes met his, calm yet piercing. She placed her small bag on the counter and pulled out a thick folder, worn at the edges. She slid it across the marble surface with deliberate slowness. "This," she said softly, yet firmly, "contains all the details of my reservation. I suggest you review it carefully." Mr. Donovan raised an eyebrow and flipped the folder open. His eyes skimmed over the documents. Booking confirmations, executive emails, legal papers, everything was in order. He froze, barely hiding his shock. This can't be right," he stammered, his arrogance cracking. "These documents, this says you're one of the hotel's founding shareholders?" Evelyn nodded slowly. "Yes, I am Evelyn Harper, one of the principal owners of Lux Royale. This hotel, in fact, is partly my creation. My family built it, brick by brick, with sweat and determination. Yet today, you chose to ignore me because of how I look." The lobby fell silent. Guests stopped their conversations mid-sentence. Vanessa's hand flew to her mouth. Disbelief etched across her face. Security guards and staff exchanged nervous glances. The whispers of mockery and judgment evaporated, replaced by stunned silence. A young woman in a designer dress whispered, That can't be possible." But the evidence was irrefutable. The manager's face paled as he realized the gravity of his mistake. He had judged her by her appearance, her modest attire, her age, assuming she had no authority, no wealth, no power. And he had been utterly wrong. Evelyn's voice remained steady, but it carried the weight of every slight she had endured in her life. "You see, Mr. Donovan, respect should not be measured by wealth, appearance, or status. It should be measured by humanity, by dignity, by truth. I came here seeking nothing more than to fulfill a simple reservation. Yet I was treated as though I were invisible, as though my life, my work, my presence meant nothing." Marcus, the bellboy, stepped forward. "Ma'am, I'm so sorry. I didn't know." Evelyn gave him a small, forgiving smile. "Son, you didn't do anything wrong. It's not your fault. But perhaps now you will understand the importance of seeing people for who they truly are, rather than what you assume them to be." The manager opened his mouth, but no words came. He had no excuse that could undo the hours of humiliation he and his staff had inflicted. The guests who had been whispering earlier now watched in silence, some in awe, some in shame. Evelyn stood, her posture regal and composed. "I trust that moving forward, you will treat all guests and all people with the respect they deserve." Dismiss no one, underestimate no one. Today I forgive the ignorance you displayed, but let this be a lesson. True authority and worth are not defined by appearance, but by integrity, courage, and patience. As she walked toward the elevator, Marcus held the door open, nodding respectfully. Evelyn's presence seemed to fill the lobby, not with fear, but with reverence. Every whisper, every glance of judgment from before, had been replaced by a quiet acknowledgement. She was more than they had imagined, more than anyone had imagined. The camera of imagination lingers on her calm smile, the soft weight of her bag swinging gently by her side, and the hotel staff frozen in disbelief. For years, the world had underestimated her, but today they saw the undeniable truth. Evelyn Harper, a black woman whose life had been built on resilience, intelligence, and grace, had revealed herself not with anger, but with dignity. And in that moment, the Lux Royale Hotel itself seemed to bow to her presence. The next morning, the Lux Royale Hotel was alive with a quiet tension. Staff whispered among themselves, casting nervous glances toward the entrance. Word had spread. The modest-looking woman who had been dismissed yesterday was Evelyn Harper, one of the hotel's founding shareholders. Nobody knew exactly what would happen next, but everyone felt the weight of inevitability in the air. Evelyn arrived promptly, dressed in a simple yet elegant outfit. Her silver-streaked hair was neatly tied, and her small leather bag hung comfortably over her shoulder. She walked into the lobby with the same quiet dignity as the day before. But this time, she was not just a guest. She was a symbol of truth and justice, walking through a space that had once judged her by appearance alone. The moment she entered, Marcus, the young bellboy, rushed forward, eyes wide with reverence. "Good morning, Miss Harper. I hope I can assist you today." Evelyn nodded graciously. "Thank you, Marcus. Please show me to the manager." At the reception desk, Vanessa froze. Her face, pale and flushed with embarrassment, betrayed every emotion: guilt, shame, disbelief. Evelyn's calm gaze met hers, and for a moment, time seemed to pause. "Good morning, ma'am," Vanessa stammered, struggling to maintain composure. Evelyn smiled gently. "Good morning. Let's ensure today is different, shall we?" The manager, Mr. Donovan, was called immediately. He appeared from his office, trying to mask the nervous tension twisting his posture. His arrogance had vanished, replaced by unease. "Ms. Harper, welcome," he said, his voice faltering. We are honored." Evelyn's eyes met his, steady and unwavering. "I trust you understand what yesterday demonstrated." Donovan swallowed hard. "Yes, I understand. I deeply regret the way I and my staff treated you. It will not happen again." Evelyn nodded, then gestured for him to sit. "I am here not to humiliate, but to correct. Respect is not optional in this hotel or anywhere. Every person deserves it, regardless of what they wear or where they come from." She paused, letting her words sink into every corner of the room. Guests, staff, and even the janitorial crew felt the weight of her presence. It was more than authority. It was integrity made tangible, a quiet power that demanded acknowledgement without force. Then, with careful deliberation, she spoke to the staff. "I have chosen forgiveness over retribution, but let this be a lesson. Humility, respect, and humanity are not just values. They are the foundation of every successful endeavor. Today, I entrust you with a responsibility to uphold them." Vanessa dropped her gaze, tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. She murmured a quiet apology. Evelyn placed a kind hand on her shoulder. Apologies are words. Change is action. Ensure your actions reflect the respect you now understand. Evelyn then turned toward the lobby, addressing the guests who had previously whispered, laughed, and judged. Your assumptions are not a reflection of my worth, but they are a reflection of your perception. Let this be a reminder. Never underestimate someone based on appearance, age, or background. True richness comes from character, courage, and grace. The guests shifted uneasily, some nodding in acknowledgement, some blushing at their own prejudice. Evelyn's quiet authority was more powerful than any confrontation or anger could have been. Finally, Evelyn spoke to Marcus, her eyes softening. Thank you for seeing me for who I am, not what you assumed. That discernment is rare, and it is the true measure of a person's character. Marcus, his eyes brimming with admiration and awe, nodded. I will never forget this lesson, Miss Harper. I promise. Evelyn smiled warmly. Good. Remember it always. As she left the hotel, the lobby seemed transformed. It wasn't just a matter of recognition. It was a shift in perception, a lesson imprinted on every soul present. Respect and dignity had been restored, not through confrontation, but through grace, patience, and undeniable truth. Outside, the morning sun caught the edges of her silver hair, and she walked with a quiet confidence. She had faced judgment, endured it, and turned it into a teaching moment that would ripple far beyond the walls of the Lux Royale Hotel. That day, every staff member, guest, and passerby learned something invaluable. Wealth and status are not defined by appearances. True authority is demonstrated through patience, courage, and dignity. Every person deserves respect, regardless of what they look like or wear. Evelyn Harper, a Black woman whose life had been built on perseverance, intelligence, and grace, had done more than claim her rightful recognition. She had reminded the world of the transformative power of patience and humanity. As she disappeared from the hotel doors, a quiet murmur spread through the lobby. Admiration, humility, and an unspoken vow to never underestimate someone again. For the Lux Royale Hotel, and for everyone present, nothing would ever be the same. And just like that, the woman everyone underestimated revealed her true power, not through anger, but through patience, dignity, and grace. Her story reminds us that true strength and respect are earned through character, not appearance. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss stories that celebrate courage, resilience, and the real triumphs of Black lives.